ago when my first daughter was born, so it's roughly 42 years ago, my grandmother, a very grizzled but wise old woman, kind of watched us interact, and she said, Mike, you've got to learn something about parenting. She said, you've got to learn to help her want to obey you. But I took those words to heart, and I began to think about, in raising a child, a very strong-willed child, to, instead of forcing her, I would learn to influence her. I would learn to try to help her understand why I wanted her to do something and why it was best. And I've tried to apply that thinking into management and leadership. You see, when it comes to power, there's two types of power, two types of authority. You've got positional power, you've got title power that says, I can make you do this because I'm the boss. It's kind of like, I'm the mommy, that's why. And that may work with little kids, but it doesn't work with adults. And people oftentimes with strong personalities, very, very high goals they're trying to achieve, very significant strategic advances they're trying to make, or in today's world, just trying to get through this incredible time we're living in, they resort to power that comes from position. You will do it because I'm the boss. You will do it because I'm the CEO. You will do it. And you don't say those words usually, sometimes, but you don't usually say those words, but that's still the way it comes across. And interestingly, just like with my daughter, when people try to make adults do anything, the response is, I'm not doing that. Or I'll only do it because I have to. And if I only do it because I have to, I'm not going to do it all the way. I'm just going to drag my feet and I'm going to be kind of nasty about it. Nobody wants to lead like that, and nobody wants to have a culture like that. So the other kind of power is the power that comes from leadership influence, the authority that comes from influence. When I'm a trusted person, when people believe in me, when people know I have their best interests at heart, and they know also I won't make them do something. I'll ask them, I may even tell them, but I'm not going to resort to sort of positional coercion to get things done. I'm going to work with them and draw on leadership skills in order to persuade and influence so that ultimately they are doing what I want them to, but they're doing what they want to as well. So it's getting them to want to follow you. So I've jotted down a few things I think might help make this practical and applicable for you as opposed to just theory. It's great to say I want people to do what they believe they should do because it's ultimately what I want to do. But you also have to think it through practically. And so I jotted down 4 things that I think helps. I've learned over the years that these are very practical things that you can do. The first one is focus on winning and keeping the heart. Management may be about the brain, and by the way, we need management. I'm not disparaging managers, I'm not disparaging management practices, but people want leadership. They may need managers, but they want leadership. And so leadership is about capturing the heart, winning the heart, keeping the heart. Everything about leadership is a matter of the heart. And it really comes down to something I learned years ago from my old college roommate. And he said, Mike, when a new leader comes into a company, a new CEO or a new C-level person or a new senior leader of any kind, the people are always asking 3 questions. And he said, they're asking, number 1, does he or she know what they're doing? In other words, are they competent? Secondly, they want to know, does this person care about them as a person? Not does he care about me or she care about me as an employee, but do they care about me as a person? And then finally, to sort of the one that matters, I think, overall, is can I trust them? Is this a trustworthy individual? And so when you're trying to lead, when you're seeking to establish yourself as a leader or you're seeking to grow in your leadership skills, ask yourselves, what is it that would make a difference to hearts? Head's part of it, but we tend to lead, we tend to manage, the more educated we are, we tend to do it intellectually, right? We're talking to the mind. And that's fine, but if you're not getting to the heart, if you're not getting to the emotions, frankly, to the individual's insides, the visceral part of them, you're not going to be able to lead them very effectively. So you start and ask yourself, what is it I'm going to do that demonstrates I know what I'm doing, I care about them as a person, and that they can trust me. And so I go back to Tom Peters, who coined a phrase, management by walking around, MBWA. I'm going to be out with the people. I'm going to be out one-on-one, sitting down, 5-minute informals. I'm going to have a one-on-one weekly with every one of my direct reports to hear what's going on in their world. How can I help? What are their priorities going forward? And most importantly, what do they need from me? I'm going to establish that one-on-one relationship that they can count on. And in that, I get a chance to demonstrate those three things: competence, I care, and I'm trustworthy. So that's number one, right? Just go for the heart. Constantly ask yourself, am I winning the heart? Am I encouraging the heart? Am I keeping the heart? So the second practical thing, really, it comes down to, how am I demonstrating integrity? If we're talking about the heart, one of the things that the heart looks for in a leader is this a person of integrity? Do they speak the truth? Do they tell the truth? Do they keep their word? This is, if you've ever watched Jerry Maguire, there's this great scene where Beau Bridges, who is the father of this great athlete they're all trying to recruit, tells Jerry Maguire, who is Tom Cruise, I don't need to sign a contract, my word is my bond. And then later, he ends up signing with his enemy, Bob Sugar, and so the whole thing is, what happened to this my word is my bond thing? Well, people want that to be true. They want to know that if you say something, you mean it. And the only way that you can demonstrate that is you actually do what you say you will do. There's a set of letters that help me remember this. DWY, SYWD. If you look at it, it's the same letters forward and backwards. And it stands simply for do what you said you would do. I, for one, have always had a bad memory. Not because I'm old. When I was young, I had a bad memory. And I would tell people that I was leading or working with, I say, guys, if I tell you I'm going to do something and you don't see me write it down, I probably will forget and not do it, and you're going to think I didn't mean it. I did mean it, I just didn't remember it. So I had a discipline that anytime I would make a commitment, I would write it down. Whether it was a notebook or whether it was in Evernote, I would write it down, and I would ask them, if you don't see me write it down, tell me to write it down. Work with me here. And I never had one person on my team ever say, wow, you're a bad leader because you said that. The truth of the matter is that they appreciated that I really want to keep my word. I just have a bad memory. The third thing is, let people know the why and not just the what. And Simon Sinek has this wonderful TED Talk called The Golden Circle that really talks about the power, the core of the why. And adults want to know, why do you want me to do this? Why does this matter? Why is this good for me? Why is this good for the company? Why does this matter to the customer? They want to know the why, and it's not pandering to take the time to explain the why. They may know it, and if they do, they'll typically go along. Not always, but they'll typically follow. But if you don't respect them enough to show them, hey guys, this is why we want to do this. This is why we want to open earlier. Or this is why we want to launch this new initiative. Or this is why we're going to do a restructure. Yeah, you'll lose points on that one every day. So take the time to explain the why as well as the what. And then finally, combine but don't confuse leadership with management. We often talk about them as if they're opposed to each other, and in some ways they are. But the fact is that a leader must be a good manager. An effective manager should be a good leader. But think about it this way. So leadership is about motivation. Management is about systems. Leadership is about inspiration. Management is about processes. There's no such thing as the 1-minute leader. Ken Blanchard's famous book on management, The 1-Minute Manager, makes perfect sense. You set a goal, you give meaningful feedback, and you add consequences, positive or negative, to do that. The whole idea of a 1-minute goal setting, 1-minute feedback, 1-minute praising, that's all great. But the truth is, I've got to have both. I've got to have metrics, and I've got to have movement. And if I can do that, then I'm bringing together the best of all possible worlds. So let me bring this in for a landing and simply say, guys, you're never going to be the leader you want to be, ever. But you should be on the journey of taking wherever you are now, however you've advanced and grown in your career, and moving to the next step. Some people ask me, are leaders born or made? And the answer is yes. You see, I believe that everybody is born with a certain amount of leadership. And some of them, put on a false scale of 1 to 10, but some of them they're born at an 8. And you've known these people. I mean, they are the natural leaders, or the kid who was elected president of the student body just because he was charismatic, or the girl that kept constantly winning every contest that she got into, or every election she got into, or took over every conversation, but people loved her for it because it was just natural. And they were just born with a high level of leadership, 6, 7, 8 out of a scale of 10. But what's really important is if you're born with a 2 or a 3 or 4, is that you take where you start and you concentrate. You're diligent in seeking to advance from a 2 to a 3, from a 3 to a 4, from a 5 to a 7. You constantly move forward. And ultimately, the hard-working leader, the one who diligently developed what they had and grew it into more, will turn out to be the better leader than the person who took what they had and didn't do anything with it. They didn't advance. They didn't go from a 7 to an 8 or an 8 to a 9. They were content to be charismatic. And so I encourage you to see leadership as a journey, make it a part of your career discipline, really a part of your personal discipline, to advance whatever God gave you to the next level.